Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you end up enjoying, you never know, it could happen. Well, here we are again. We've got another Why You Shouldn't Read the Stormlight Archive. This is another in the same series, and as you'll obviously know from watching the other videos, it's super serious and 100% my feelings, at least the beginning of it, until I get to my not real feelings. So anyway, let's get into why you shouldn't read Oathbringer, book 3 in the Stormlight Archive. First off, number 1, this is the third in a series, and you have to read 2 books ahead of this, but also a novella to understand one of the things that happens in here. Then you've got one more out after this in the series, another novella, and then we still don't even have book 5 yet, which is coming out later this year. But we then don't have the other 5 books in the 10-book series. It's going to be a while because these come out about once every 3 or 4 years. So anyway, that's pretty bad, right? All right, the second reason why you shouldn't read Oathbringer, I guess you just hate magic systems. They're the worst, right? I mean, I hate them. I know you do too. I can't even say these things with a straight face. Maybe you hate magic systems, I guess, and you want more non-magic in your fantasy. And another reason, it's another, look how big it is. I mean, it's huge. How are you supposed to read this without like it dropping on your face or something? I don't know, I'm stretching this. And maybe you also hate interesting characters with traumatic backstories, because this follows one of those. As usual for my Stormlight Archive reviews, for some reason, because my sense of humor is this stupid, but I actually did love Oathbringer. It made my number 1 of the first half of the year. So yeah, I mean, if you're a follower of the channel, I know you already knew that. So thanks for bearing with my stupidity. I can't help myself, especially if I've read 3 books into the series and I'm still hating on it and hate reading. I mean, you shouldn't trust my opinion anyway. I should have given up a long time ago. First off, let's look at the cover though. The cover is another Michael Whelan beauty. I absolutely, it's good, but it's probably my least favorite of all of the Stormlight Archive covers. I do like the sword, the sharp blade, as some might call it. They do have great swords in this series, but there's just not, I don't know, it's just not as like epic looking as some of the other ones. So anyway, I'm going with that. It's just kind of one character and a wall. So I don't know. I think my favorite might still be Way of Kings, but it's still good. Still nothing against it really. It's well done as usual. 2, I usually go into a summary. You may be careful with spoilers, just for the fact that this is book 3 in a series, so there might be some spoilers here for books 1 and 2. But then I am going to try to do the spoiler-free for Oathbringer itself until I get to a place where I will have spoilers. I'll let you know. But this is essentially, it's Dalinar's book this time. You get that because each kind of book kind of has their like character who you go into the past with, and you do that pretty early on. So it's not, I don't see it as being a huge spoiler to say that, or any kind of spoiler, because you know it pretty quickly. And Dalinar, it's interesting, right? He's now got to try to put together the whole world, unite the whole world now against the Voidbringers, against what has been brought back. And all while then us kind of figuring out what's happening in his past and what happened in his past. And it is pretty interesting. Probably my favorite of the past jumps so far, frankly. Yeah, I have to say that. So I guess I can safely say that. The Shallan ones were fine. And got better. But we really get to see, I mean, really just the huge changes in Dalinar. So I love that part about it. Likes versus dislikes. Like I said, and I've already kind of gone into this, into my likes. So take those and insert them here. Typical lawyer. Dalinar is great. I already talked about that. It's great learning his backstory and learning everything that's happened to him. Exploring the magic system just that much more. And again, this is where I'm just going to say it. Let's get into spoilers here for likes versus dislikes, I'll let you know down below where we're at, and probably in this video, where to jump to. And so likes, as far as this goes, I like how we get to explore even more what is a knight's radiant, right? And kind of, okay, we're gathering, right? And we're getting troops together, we're assembling all kinds of peoples, and then you have the kind of the limitations, I guess, of a span read of all these powers. And I love how it's like set up as, here's a magic system, here's how it's set up, and then also Brandon Sanderson does a really good job of, but here's how you push it, here's how you push the limits on it, and you tweak it, and you mess with it. I really like that, so it's not so rigid, but at the same time it's clearly been well thought out, so that you see that these implications make sense and it totally works out. I'm gonna stop holding that. I don't know why I was holding it so long. I loved exploring Urithiru, is that how you pronounce it? Urithiru, the place where they've kind of took refuge from the Everstorm, from everything, and brought everybody, and exploring, kind of as we're exploring Dalinar, exploring Adolin, and what, you know, kind of some of the things he's done, like murdering Sadeas, right? And him kind of obviously taking that on, but also being the investigator of that. So, I mean, as satisfying as that was, and now he's investigating it, you do understand why Sadeas' army, or former Sadeas' army, blames the Colons, and obviously we know, rightfully so, though it can't be put at Dalinar's feet. So there's a lot of just things going on. I really like that this book explores like Kaladin's relationships, and him going back and trying to find his family, and maybe this will get into my dislikes / frustrations, but because I get, like, he's kind of been a man of war, but he's kind of like, when it makes sense, and the other side is essentially evil, or at least in your way to do good, as opposed to, well, what if they're not evil? What if they're not? What if they're just like you? And I mean, that's a theme in a lot of books about, especially war, is you may have ideological differences from your enemy, but at the same time, down on the grunt level, on the base level, you're a human being and just kind of doing what you're told, and so are they. I thought that was interesting. I like, you know, Kaladin is, I loved him so much in the Way of Kings, and he was a little frustrating in Words of Radiance, in that he's just so moody, and so it's semi-frustrating how, I guess, he functions, but at the same time I get it, and it's like, I don't think it's inaccurately portrayed. It's how he's been set up, and just how he just, you know, struggles with the nobility, to say the least, and has given up shard plate to people and all these things, and you're going, wait, but I want you to have, but also he doesn't need it, right? And he's shown to be able to defeat shard bearers. Let's get into dislikes real quickly here, because I did have some frustrations with this one. It does get a little long in the tooth, as they say. I felt like there's a part where the king and Shallan and Adolin, and they've got to go back to Kholinar, and I guess Kaladin too, and they go back to Kholinar to try to, like, see what's going on there. They're not getting a lot of communication, but it kind of just felt like, all right, in this massive epic series, it just felt like a side quest, and it was like, I get somewhat of it, and it's some of the things that happened were like, okay, I get that was a big event that happened, and I gotta say, I'm always like picking and choosing my, like, spoilers on this one. When the king just up and dies, and it's just, so I get why it's like a major scene, and definitely has some big powerful things going on, and we kind of get more information as to more enemies, right? Bigger enemies, very hard to defeat enemies, but it just kind of felt like a side quest, and you're just going, all right, come on, like, we could focus this a little bit. And it felt like, okay, this was the first time where I've really felt there was a little bit, if I'm admitting, you know, if I'm being honest with myself, with the Words of Radiance, where there were some slow parts and some, like, all right, could this 1,000-page behemoth have used just like a little more editing down? I feel like maybe, but then we just have like 20 or 30 more novellas, I guess, that I'd be reading anyway. So I get that too. But it does feel like, okay, it's a big giant side quest. All right, after saying all that, I do rate this a 9 out of 10. I absolutely, like, I fall in love with just this world each time I pick up a new Stormlight Archive. So I do feel like it's top tier, highest of Brandon Sanderson books. These are just some of the best. They're so much fun. And just because you're dealing with great, like, the world itself is just its own character. Even like, you're just so fascinated by everything that's going on in this world, let alone also the characters, which I really do like and I really do appreciate, and you just really understand they're really well done. All right, and then if you like this, you might like, so obviously this one actually was kind of hard for me because it was like, well, what's like this? Well, I just finished Mistborn. Mistborn's kind of like this. Magic system, epic. You know, obviously it's in the same kind of series with the Cosmere, so your mileage may vary on that, like being a good recommendation. Of course, it's like kind of just in the same thing. I'm just recommending the same thing, but I do have another one that I do feel like I call this, it's called Threadlight. It's by Zach Argyle. Great, just, anyway, Voice of War is awesome. I've read that, and I just got lots of Stormlight vibes. I call it Stormlight Light in all the best ways, because it's just, again, it's its own thing, but they're not like 1,000-page long books. So they're, you know, doable, and it's a complete trilogy. So definitely recommended alongside. So at least I have one that's a non-Cosmere recommendation. All right, and I did listen. I read alongside, but also listened to this on audiobook, and Michael Kramer and Kate Redding are just incredible. They're some of the best for a reason. They definitely earned their keep. I will say, and this is more just like, there's no way around it, I don't think. So each of them kind of takes their own section, and so if the main character is like male or female, then, you know, if it's male, then Michael Kramer's going to take it. If it's a female main kind of character in that section, then it's going to be Kate Redding. But it's always weird. Again, this is like, no, like nothing against any of them, just that when it's one character that one's been doing, and then there's like, you know, the character then, you know, in their voice for that character, and then the other one does that character in their section. It's just always like a little weird, you know. You're like, okay, I get it, but it's a little jarring still, and you can't, it's like unavoidable. I don't know how to do it, and I feel like the most, like, either you just have one person read the whole thing, which I don't think would be better than just having two people read it and having a little bit of jarring. That's fine. I still feel like this is the better way, because I love them both anyway, very much. So that's my review, as quick as I can make it, of Oathbringer. What are your thoughts? I know I was kind of all over the place, but I really, really did enjoy this. There's so many things to love about the Stormlight Archive. It's such a vast and fun world, and I can't wait. I'm hoping to get some tickets to see and sign, get my book signed by Brandon Sanderson himself at FanX. So anyway, we'll see if that happens. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you next time. Bye.